It's full moon again. Crazy how time flies. And I think those lines are the perfect way for Persona 3 Reload to start. On the one hand, saying crazy how time flies is very befitting of the theme of the game, which we'll get to. Well, I mean, I guess one of the themes, because I feel like there's a few in Persona 3. You know, there's the themes of death, there's the themes of loss. It's the sad one. It's the blue one. Specifically, I'm using this angle because it looks very blue outside, and I didn't want to use the light when I was recording this because the light makes it more kind of yellowy, and that's Persona 4's thing. But if I don't have the light on, it's like, no, it just looks dark. Like, it doesn't even look, like, it looks blue, like, from my perspective, but from the camera, it's just, like, super dark, and, yeah, it's like, I kind of need to put the light on, but at least you get a little bit of blue. I think it's kind of nice, actually. But anyways, getting off tangent, there's already one for my bingo card. One of the major themes of Persona 3, in particular, because, I mean, you could say this is kind of a thing with the other Persona games, so it really feels like this is a major sticking point in 3, is, yeah, time goes by really fucking fast. Please make sure you make the most of your time. No matter how, like, doesn't matter how much time you have. It might be a lot, it might be a little. Maximize it. Make sure that every day you do something that you want to do. Whether it's going and eating a burger and being adventurous while you do it. Whether it's working at a coffee shop on a Tuesday and getting extra money because that's what they pay a little bit more. You gotta learn those little life hacks. It's hanging out with your friends or going to the club at night and hanging out with a monk. Make sure you maximize that time. But there's the other part of that opening line. It's full moon again. Which for me, I really like it because it almost feels like it's saying welcome back. Like, hey, it's full moon again. We got shit to do. And I really like that. So, speaking of being welcomed back, I feel like that's as good a segue as any. And I'm talking about my... It's not a segue into my itchy face. That just kind of happened. It's a segue into my previous experience with Persona 3. The only other version of the game I have played is Fez. I played Fez... God, when did I play Fez? Like 2016, 17... No, it was before that, because it was before law school. Yeah, it was like 2013? Wow, yeah, it's been about a decade since I played Persona 3. That's crazy. My opinion on Persona 3, on Fez specifically, is very mixed. Short version. Love the soundtrack. Love the game's very grungy visual aesthetic. I like the idea of the gameplay because I love turn-based gameplay. If you've watched some of my videos, you know the kind of games I played had to be turn-based RPGs. And I really like Persona's combat. It's not quite Pokemon, but just, getting demons and then fusing them together, getting the stuff like... It's a little Pokemon-ish. Not really, but it kind of scratches that itch just a little bit. And also, I like that it rewards me for smart gameplay. You hit a weakness, you get to go again. You knock everything down, you get a stronger attack. Things like that. I enjoy that. The problem I had with Persona 3's gameplay is I felt like I couldn't be as smart as I wanted to be or needed to be because I had no direct control of my party members. There is indirect control where you can kind of set their AI to, hey, maybe you should be more on support. Maybe you should be more on just attacking. You should try to conserve your SP, things like that. But no, character, I want you to do this specific thing, please. And That's why some characters, Mitsuru, cough cough, weren't in my party for very long. Because Marin fucking Karin. The story, it was one that I liked and I could appreciate, but I took several very long hiatuses while playing Persona 3 because of how much I didn't like playing the ding dang thing. That while I could think, like, these are interesting story beats and character moments, but it's been so long since I played the game, I'm kind of lacking context. So I can appreciate it in a vacuum, but as a part of a whole, I'm not as much. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. You did this to yourself by being asked to play. Which culminated in one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had finishing a game. Because I beat Nyx, and it's super fun. As much as I will shit on playing Fez, because I did not like playing Fez, there are two fights I remember in that game that I loved. One was fighting Strength and Fortune, because I thought Fortune's gimmick was super cool, and I really liked the fight with Nyx. Also, I had Soma's out the ass, so I was just like, hey, yeah, I can keep going. I also never got Charm Salted, and I will take that. But even though I won the fight, I had never seen the ending to Persona 3. It was very specifically, I didn't have a car or a license at that time, and my mom needed to take me, I needed to go somewhere, my mom was going to take me, she's like, I am taking you at this time, and I was like, alright, maybe I can beat the game before then, and I was able to beat Nyx, but I wasn't able to do anything else, see the cutscenes afterwards. So, I had no idea how the game ended, and because my experience with the game and its story was so weird and wonky, I kind of never cared enough to see how it ended. And also, just through osmosis, I more or less knew what happened. So it's always been this weird where I've beaten Persona 3, but kind of never finished it, and certainly never saw how it ended. Like I said, I had a very mixed experience with Fuzz. And because of that, I was so excited to play Reload. A version of the game that I might not hate, that might actually fix my problems, which again, weren't really with the narrative, although there's maybe some things here and there, and yeah, there's definitely parts of the story that I hate, and I'm gonna talk about those, don't get me wrong. But a lot of it was, can I control my dumbass party members? And also, when it comes to fusing personas, can I pick what skills they inherit? When my party members level up, can I choose what skills they get rid of? Please, if you fix that, I think I might really like your game now. Those things were fixed. And, spoiler alert, which, well, I should go ahead and say there will be full spoilers when I full on talk about all the things that happen in the game. So, full spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now in effect. But also, spoiler alert, yeah, I kind of really liked it this time around. I don't know if I like it more than Persona 4, because Persona 4 was the first one I played, and it has this very nostalgic quality to me. And Persona 5, as I have said probably before on this channel, I would be shocked if I didn't, is one of my favorite games of all time. And to me, it's like the platonic ideal of a video game. It has this unique style to it. It has a phenomenal soundtrack that also feels like it's really integral to the game's identity. It really goes all the way with how it looks. And I think the gameplay is super fun to play. I think the characters are really likable. I think the story is really interesting. To me, it does everything right, and then does it even better than that. So let's see what I actually thought of Reload, going category by category. And as I usually do, I have 3 major categories: presentation, gameplay, narrative. So starting with the presentation. I mean, it's a Persona game. You know the music is fire. You know they were cooking when they made this. There is a new singer now for Persona 3. And I was very mixed at first, partly because, okay, I know there's some things that I want you to do different, but also I don't like change. So if you can fix the things I need fixed without feeling like too much was changed, that would be great. And I'm like, okay, this is a big ding dang change. But the more I listen to her, I'm like, okay, I don't know which vocalist I prefer. And I mean, Lotus Juice is still here. I'm like, Lotus Juice is great. I'm like, I don't know which vocalist I prefer. But that also means I definitely got used to her. I'm like, no. I like this. I'm getting into this. I don't think the new version of Mass Destruction is that good. Like, I think it's fine. If you've heard people talk about the frog noises, like, yeah, it's weird. This is gonna be a hot take. I never really liked Mass Destruction in the first place. I always thought it was fine. I adore Reach Out to the Truth. It just kind of does it for me. Last Surprise, genuinely my favorite RPG battle theme of all time. I love how it sounds. I love that the lyrics are actively talking shit the entire time. It's so good. It's so perfect. I've always thought Mass Destruction, like, okay. Like, I don't hate it. I just never really got into it. Part of that might have been, it's the song that plays during combat, which, you know, it's a battle theme, duh. But combat was the part of Fez I hated the most, so it might be less that I didn't care for the song, just more I didn't care with what the song was associated with. But to me, it being it's an inferior version of a song that I always thought was eh. The overworld theme, or like the town theme, I can't remember what it's called. It's like the moon reaching out to the stars. I don't think I like this version quite as much. I think it's still very good. But the reason I can say I don't like it as much is I can tell what she's saying a lot easier. And to use a CCAT's term, because Beatrice is right up here, being able to understand what she's saying is like looking into the cat box. Like, I saw a post about her. It's like every version of reaching out to the moon, reaching out to the stars is personalized. It's like, it really kind of is. And now that I can actually tell what she's... sorry, really itchy back. Holy crap. Now that I can understand what she's saying, some of the mystique is gone and some of the fun is taken away, but I still like it quite a bit. The new version of Changing Seasons with the additional vocals, I think, is way better. I really, really like... Because, like, I think the first school theme, I think, is fine. I'm pretty neutral to it. As soon as Changing Seasons came on, I was like, wait a second. Yeah, this is good. This is really, really good. Aria of the Soul is different. It's not super different, but the first time I heard it, I was like... I can tell there's a difference. This is weird. I dig it though. Like, it's subtle. Like, to the point where when I heard it again, I was like, wait, am I crazy? This sounds the same. Was I just making shit up? Like, did I gaslight myself? I don't know. I'm like, no, I think it is actually different. And I've, like, actually checked. It is slightly different. I think that's cool. Battle for Everyone's Souls. I think it's about on par with the original version. Like, there are some bits in it that are a bit different. I'm like, that's really cool. I don't like this game's version of Master of Shadow as much. Because as much as I was saying, I was like, I never got into Mass Destruction. I've always loved Master of Shadow. And I think it is... Specifically, the vocals in this version. It was something that Clay pointed out during his playthroughs. I was like, yeah, I can notice it. It just sounds a lot more monotone in this version. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't, like, hit me as hard. What else? Because I want to get to the original tracks, but I want to go through some of the ones that were in the original game first. Memories of You, both versions are really good. Both versions are really, really good. And I mean, Memories of You is half the OST anyways, man. It's so good. Let's talk about some of these new songs. So, It's Going Down kind of took me a little bit to get into. I won't lie. I was like, I don't dislike it, but I don't know if it's like, I feel it yet. And then at some point, I'm like, okay, I feel it, Mr. Krabs. I'm kind of digging this song. Another really good song is, I just really like Straga's boss theme. I kind of don't give a shit about Strega, with one notable exception, that's Chidori. I'm like, I don't really care about Strega, but the song's badass. I gotta give them their credit. They got a really good bass. I was trying to say bass and fuck. I was trying to say battle and boss at the same time, but they do have a really good boss theme. What was the other one? There was another original song I wanted to get to that wasn't Color Your Night. Did I write it down? I hope I wrote it down. Oh, it was Full Moon, Full Life. Duh. I adore Full Moon, Full Life. It was like the first time I heard it, I was like, I liked it. I liked it. I thought the visuals were good, but it was just the more times I heard it, because I'm the kind of person where if I like an opening, I will not skip it, with some exceptions. And by that, what I mean is, if I am in a session of a game and either I die or I just have to like reload my save, like something like that, where like I have to reload my game but it's still the same session, at that point I will skip the openings. Like, I've seen it for this game session. Aside from that, if I like the opening, I ain't skipping it, so I never skip Full Moon, Full Life. I really, really liked it. Then I heard the full version of the song, and it went from, I really like this opening, to, this might be my favorite Persona opening. It might beat Persona 4's original. It might beat Burn My Drug. It is, to me, the perfect encapsulation of everything that Persona 3 is about. It is about maximizing your time. There's this one line the Lotus Juice has, which is, I think it's, trepidation doesn't stop death, but it stops life. I'm like, that's a good one. It's like, that's a really good one. I think like in the final chorus, there's a line about how, no one should need a permit to find their way of life. It's something like that I really like. It's kind of beautiful. I've been saving the best for last, because to me, my favorite song in this game is Color Your Night, which is the night theme. I've listened to it so many times outside of playing the game. Just like going for a walk, going on a drive, just vibing, just chilling. It hits me. It hits me, like, it feels like it's a Persona 5 song, and just, like, the vibes that it hits, even, like, the bass that I hear, I'm like, okay, it's not one-to-one, but I can hear the Persona 5 in this. Like, this is great. This is really great. It's easily my favorite song in the game, and again, this is a game that includes Memories of You, and a game that includes Full Moon, Full Life, and Battle for Everyone's Souls. But to me, Color Your Night is just perfect shit. So, the OST, phenomenal. The voice acting. So I played the game in English, because generally speaking, if I'm playing an RPG, I'm going to play it in English if there is a dub. If not, I'll play it in Japanese. I won't really mind. The English cast is like 98 to 99% different than it was in Fez. I think the one person who is explicitly voicing the same character is Tara Platt as Elizabeth. I believe everybody else is different. And for the most part, the voice acting is so good in this game. Every now and then, like when I was first... Clay was playing the game before I did, and I was like, I don't know about Akihiko. Something, like, his voice sounds like he's maybe just a little too old, but then when I was actually playing the game, I didn't really have a problem with it. And when I was watching him play, and I was listening to Yukari, I'm like, well, Yukari, I think it's Michelle Ruff played her in the original game, and I'm sorry, I don't really know the names of the new voice actors. Yukari was just so smarmy, and it just made her that much more unlikable, her voice acting did. Here, that felt significantly toned down, which I appreciated. There were times where I just didn't really get into the voice overall, but I think for the most part, I was like, no, I think this is fine. Ken, from what I remember in Fez, this is a huge improvement. Mitsuru, I feel like I like about as much. Junpei, I feel like I like about as much, if not a little bit more, because there are some parts where he just fucking killed it. Like, holy shit, he was great. I feel like I honestly don't really remember Ryoji's voice acting in the original game. I liked it a lot here. Fuka. Oh my god, Fuka's a huge improvement. Clay and I will always joke about Fuka's voice acting in original Fez and how invested she seemed. And it made me not care about Fuka at all. And now that she had a voice actress who seemed invested and was trying, I'm like, I'm now more invested in Fuka, and it made me like Fuka a lot. I guess I was like, there's someone else who reminds me of that. I also remember I get it, like, she was a robot, she was supposed to be very monotone. I just never really clicked with her in Fez. I kind of clicked with her the whole game. I think part of it was I was actually using her in this playthrough. But, I think Aigis' voice actor kills it too. And also, all of your social link okay, not technically all of them. Like, if it's, you're hanging out with someone on a Sunday, or I kind of call them, like, 0.5s. Like, okay, you're not about to rank someone up, but you're hanging out with them and getting points. Those aren't voiced. But every time you rank up in a social link, those conversations are fully voiced. And they're really, really good. One of the best performances in the entire game is Akinari's mom on the final day. Oh boy. That got so close to just making me weep. It's one of those where, like, I didn't cry, but it hit me hard. And I remember when Clay got there, he was gone, like, but he was crying. I'm like, no judgment, man. This was beautifully written. This was beautifully acted. This was so impactful. Like, holy shit. So the voice acting was also fantastic. I don't really like the game's overall aesthetic, though. It feels like it's too... Okay, first up, before I go down that rabbit hole, something I remember, and I need to make sure I bring this up. This is a minor thing overall, but it happens so often that it bothers me. So, when you do an all-out attack in this game and it kills the enemy, you get a victory screen, the same way you did in Persona 5. However, if you get a shuffle time, and if you've got an all-out attack, like 99 times out of a fucking 100 will get a shuffle time, your character will, like, do the all-out attack. So, like, when Makoto does it, she does this slash. Then you get shuffle time. So then you play shuffle time, and then after you play shuffle time, then he does his splash art. And I hated that so much, because it just kind of took me out of the moment. I think it would have been way better if it's like, alright, do your kill, do your splash art, XP, then shuffle. Well, no, I mean, shuffle time would have to be before XP because of how shuffle time works here. But I think, give me my splash screen, let me appreciate it for a second, then shuffle time. Like, that one little minor change would have... Again, is it one of those things where I'm like, this ruined my experience? No. But I didn't like it. It's a minor thing, but it just felt off and it felt wrong. I don't like the visual style of the game because first off, it feels like Persona 5e, but it doesn't go all the way with it. Like, Persona 5, to me, it feels like I'm playing a graphic novel, And the game really maximizes that. Like, it goes all the way with it. Persona 3 load just kind of feels like, Persona 5 had these cool splash screens. We should do that. Persona 5 had these really cool menus. We should do that in the menus in this game. Like, they look sick as fuck. I really like them. But I don't know if that's really befitting of Persona 3 with its vibe and its tone. The game's, it's too bright. Like, it's too genuinely pretty. And that is one thing I think that Fez does better, is, I like how kind of grungy and nasty Fez looks. Like, even the character design, like the character models, like their sprites, look a lot kind of rougher. And I think that fits really well. Is it a major problem? No, it's genuinely not. But it is something that, as I was playing the game, I was like, man, this game is really pretty. I just kind of wish it wasn't. I wish it was just a little grosser, but overall, I like that the game looks good. I like that the game runs, especially fucking Kuro 2. I can appreciate that the game runs well. Do I have anything else I really want to say about it? Let's see. Voice acting, the visuals, the shuffle time shit. No, that's about it. Like, overall, phenomenal shit. I think, given I do have my problems with the presentation, but they're so minor in the grand scheme of things and are certainly outclassed by the things the game does well in that regard, that I'm not going to take too many points off. I think I'll overall go with about a 4.5 out of 5 on presentation. So now we get to move into the gameplay, where I have full control over my party members. They are just as smart and just as dumb as me. And there were times I did some dumb shit. I will not deny that. There are times I was like, this is a risky play. If it works, it's great. If it doesn't, should have done something else. And, for the most part, I would say I had a lot of fun. I played the game on Merciless, and the game was, with like the exception of the Reaper, because, no duh, and Elizabeth, who was specifically designed where, oh, did you bring like some really good personas that aren't Orpheus Telos? Because these really good personas can drain, null, or repel a skill, you're just gonna die. Like, you cannot fight her. I'm like, well, that's shitty and bullshit, so I'm really not gonna bother with it. The game is not very difficult. And it kind of makes me wonder, because it's not like Fez was super hard, but I felt like it was, like, I definitely had to... I think that's my problem. It's not just that I'm like, yeah, the game wasn't super hard. It's that after a point, again, outside of I'm fighting the Reaper, it was kind of brain dead. I was like, yeah, I just, like, you know what? I feel like when people talk about turn-based games, when they don't like them, they're like, yeah, I'm just kind of clicking through menus, and that's not interesting to me. I love turn-based combat because I love how strategic it can be. Like, I think this is it. I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this and talking through my opinion on it. When I am playing a turn-based game, I want to have one of two different kinds of experiences. Number one, I want to feel genuinely challenged and that I have to use a good strategy to overcome it. I have to maximize my character's strengths, figure out how to minimize their weaknesses. Like, okay, how do I get out of the bad situation I'm in? And how do I keep the vibes going? I like that a lot. The other thing I like is building a character or the squad and be just so stupidly overwhelming and unga bunga ooga booga busted that the game becomes a joke. Because that is fun in its own kind of way. For example, playing Trails into Reverie. Being like the insane, like, busted shit that my characters could do in that game was amazing. Playing Royal. And with the way that Mementos was reworked. So a combination of Mementos giving me a lot more XP and a lot more money. And the twin social link allowing me to fuse personas that were stronger than me for a fee. When I'm making all of this money in Mementos, I was dumb in Royal. And it felt really fun to just, like, I felt like I really had this swagger of a Phantom Thief. It's like, what are you gonna do? You can't touch me. I've got Yoshitsune, I got Hasatobi. Like, I remember fighting the true final boss of that game, and it's like, on this turn, you can't use physical attacks. Do you honestly think I care? I'm still gonna use Hasatobi. You can't stop me. Oh, look, I did it, and you didn't stop me. That can be really fun. To me, 3-load was somewhere in the middle, where it was easy enough, like, it wasn't hard enough to give me that challenge, but I never felt, like, so stupidly busted that it was making me have a good time. Now, that is not to say I didn't have fun, because I was having fun, but I played the game for, like, 80 hours. I don't remember what my final time was. Did I write it down? I should have. I don't think I did, but I think my final was about 83, 85, somewhere in that range. And after a while of not being that challenged, and I was getting that swagger by the end of the game, and yes, it's the end game. That is when you should be feeling more, like, stupidly strong. It just felt like there was a chunk of the game where it really wasn't all that fun. And I'm definitely going to put a pin in that, because there was a lengthy chunk of the game that I did not find that fun. But I'll talk about that more when I get to the social aspect. In terms of my overall party comp, I used Yukari because she's the white mage. I'm going to use the best healer in the game. I used Mitsuru kind of off and on, but she wasn't in my final party. I didn't use a lot of Junpei. I really didn't use Akihiko. I used Ken kind of every now and then. When Shinji was available, you better believe I used my baby boy. I was just like, Clay, I have a Shinji button. I'm going to use the Shinji button. Bro is dumb. Bro is insane. I adored it. I used a lot of Koromaru. And I used him back in Fez. My final party in Fez was Makoto, Yukari, Akihiko, and Koromaru. Mostly because Mitsuru made me so mad with all the Marin Karens. I was like, I don't care that Koromaru was less viable because he's going to use Mudon on the final boss and it's just a waste of a turn. Mitsuru, you are barred from being in the party. Junpei is too weak because I haven't been using him. I just can't hit a damn thing. And I don't like Ken. I guess this is my party by default. Also, he's a good boy. He's not very good, but he's a good boy. Koromaru is a monster in 3-load. Holy crap. Making curse spell, like, taking darkness and making it curse, kind of like they did in P5. Actually, I don't think they call it. I think it's still called Light and Dark and not Bless and Curse. Makes him a lot better. Getting Debilitate makes him really good. His Theurgies, I'll talk about that in a second. Like, they're really useful. Dude is just killing it. And, yeah, I used Aegis this time, and yeah, Aegis is really good. Aegis is really strong. Robot go burr. Robot great. There is a new mechanic. Oh, another thing they fixed in the game is, yeah, when you fuse a persona, you can actually choose its skills like you can in other games. Like you should be able to. Like I probably should have been able to do in the first place. When your party members level up and get new skills, you choose what they keep so you can customize your character a bit better, because I don't think I could do that in 3. Maybe I could have, and I don't remember it. That good additions. Another good addition is the Theurgy. Theurgy is essentially your character's limit break. And if I'm correct, with the exception of the MCs, they're all new. Because in Vanilla 3, and this is something I really loved in 3 that other games didn't have, is there are some personas that have combo moves. For example, if you have Jack Frost and Pyrojack. Pyrojack, Jack-o'-lantern, I think depending on the game they call them, I think this is another game where it's Jack-o'-lantern, I prefer Pyrojack, but whatever. You get the special skill Jack Bros, which says I think it's medium almighty to every enemy, and like a medium chance or whatever, or I think it's a high chance to just knock enemies down. If you have Orpheus, your starting persona, and I think it's Asperus, something like that, you get a skill called Cadenza, which is Masuku Kaja, plus healing 50% of everyone's HP, etc., etc. There's a few like this. Now, instead of just you have to have them both in your party, it's Makoto's limit break. So long as he has those 2 in his compendium, he can use it. Yukari, okay, because everyone gets 2. It's here. Shinji doesn't. But, they get the one they joined, and then when they get their Ascended Persona, they get a second one, because Koromaru is already perfect, he starts with 2. So Yukari is severe wind damage, and then, concentrate to everybody. Junpei, I think the first is, severe slash, and then the second one is severe fire plus full health. Akihiko, what does Akihiko do? I don't know, I didn't use it. I'm sorry, I just did it. I think his is severe lightning, and then also severe lightning, or it's heavy lightning, and then it's something like that. I guess both of hers are pierced. It's heavy pierce to everything, that puts her in Orgia mode where she can't be controlled, but she's stronger. And then severe pierce to one enemy. Mitsuru is severe ice to one enemy, and then, or might be to all enemies. And then it's heavy. No, not heavy. It's massive, I think. Super almighty damage to one enemy plus debilitate. Ken is blessed damage to an enemy. His other is fully heals everybody and sets up Tetrakarn and Makarakarn. Koromaru is severe darkness. And the other one is charge to everybody. Shinji's, I think, is severe strike, so it's just super unga bunga. I don't think I missed anybody. And and then there's Fuka, who has mission control. She has a lot of different effects, and you can't choose what the effects are. And it's kind of supposed to be that she'll give you what you need. Like, if you're low on health, she'll restore health and SP together. If you're low on SP, she'll do that. If everyone's fine, she'll do, mass heat riser or charge and concentrate everybody. But there were definitely times where I'm like, all right, we got a lot of health. We got a lot of SP. We're about to get something good. And then, I topped you off. We didn't need health, though, Fuka. We kind of needed heat riser. Well, too bad. There are a few, that are Fuka's going to do this, and it's going to come in super clutch, and thanks, Fuka. Thanks, Fuka. Let's see. The way a character's Theurgy gauge will go up, it's you do damage, take damage, it'll still go up. But each character, if you do their personality characteristics for Yukari, it's if you heal somebody, it makes her gauge go up more. Junpei, it's by doing crits. Kamui, I think it's switching personas to hitting weaknesses. Akihiko, I think it's either buffing or debuffing. I didn't use them, I don't remember which. Koromaru is, I think it's hitting weaknesses and not having a lot of SP. Ken is just, if you don't have a lot of SP, it goes up. I don't remember what Shinji is. Shinji might just be hit things, do damage. It goes up. I guess it's just use physical spells. And then Mitsuru, it's hit weakness and inflict status. Get the Theurgy up. Fuck shit up. Have Koromaru use Power Howling. Go to MC. Use a strong persona I don't know, Siegfried with Rebellion, Crit Amp. Automataru Kaja / Amp and then Scarlet Havoc, and things just die, and it's amazing. Also, yeah, Theurgies will ignore resistances, so that's nice. They're really fucking good. They're kind of part of... Theurgies are that weird thing where on the one hand, I'm like, these are maybe a little too broken because they do make the game easier, but when I obliterate something with a Theurgy, it does, kind of like what I was saying earlier, those are some of those moments where I felt like I'm super strong in breaking the game, and that's fun for me. I enjoyed that. I did enjoy my fusions and making cool personas. I don't remember all the dudes I had at the end. I had like Messiah, Satan, Lucifer, Hellel. I used Lucifer like almost exclusively when fighting next, so I got Lucifer's magic up to 99, and I think I had... No, I don't think I put Asura's strength up to 99, but I did have Asura. I had Aegis... Okay, so I had Yukari's magic at 99 as well, and I had Aegis's strength at 99, so we were going to work when we were fighting next, and the Koromaru was also there just debilitate, and basically like debilitate and doing some like item support when necessary. Yukari damage and healing. Aegis just punching the hell out of it, and then concentrate. Morningstar, concentrate, Morningstar. It's like, and there goes your health, dude. That was enjoyable. Like, I was max level when I fought Nyx because I could be. And it's like, yeah, this is... It's maybe not quite as fun as when I did it in Fez, because Fez was a lot more challenging. But being able to just delete the final boss 13 times, it is kind of fun. So let's see. Okay, so that's talk about a lot of that. The dungeons. Well, it's more just the dungeon singular because there's only Tartarus. This was another reason I never really got into Fez. I didn't like Tartarus. Persona 4 was the first one I played. And the fact that, while the dungeons themselves were randomly generated, they all had a theme that corresponded to whatever arc you were doing. When you have to go save Yukiko and her shadow feels like she's the princess of a castle, you're in a castle. When you're trying to save Mitsuo, who's this shut-in who prefers video games over his own life and wants to be able to escape, you're in a video game world. When heaven happens... And there's ways you can interpret that. Is it more Namatame, seeing the TV world as a paradise that he's saving people in? Like, are you seeing heaven? Or is it because it's Nanako's arc and it's this, like, child's ideal of heaven? I really like that. You can kind of see heaven as being his, you can see it as being hers, you can kind of see it as being both. It's why it's my favorite dungeon in 4, and it's still quite possibly my favorite in the series. Tartarus is 263 floors? I think it's something very close to that. It's randomly generated. Every X amount of floors, you get to a new block, which the aesthetic's different, but that's kind of it. There's probably a theme there that's going on, but I don't really know what it is. It just, to me, feels like it's more kind of random whatever. In Fez, it felt like Tartarus had a lot more personality to it. Like, it felt like pretty often you would get into a floor where you're separated from your teammates, so you gotta go find everybody. Or you would get a floor where it's completely dark, it's really hard to find it. It felt like it was very labyrinthine. There were floors where the Reaper would show up really quickly and just start hounding you. Kind of some of that happens here. You don't get the separation floors, which, I mean, did I miss them? No. But you do get the darkness floors. They don't feel as often. There are some floors that feel like the Reaper was a little bit quicker. I don't know. Maybe it was just, again, like how much brighter the game is. I didn't feel as intimidated by Tartarus. It's like, oh no, I feel like I can find my way through this pretty easily. I have a terrible sense of direction. I was constantly using my mini-map, but I was able to get through it pretty easily. There's one mechanic that is removed from Fez that I'm very torn on. Because it's a mechanic that I hate, but I kind of really like it. So in Fez, especially early game, if your characters were in Tartarus for too long, they would get tired. When a character got tired, if I'm remembering correctly, they were significantly weaker. Like, they weren't doing as much damage. I think their defenses were lowered. I don't think skills took more HP or SP. Maybe they did. And it was just like, yeah, like, if a character is tired, you need to switch them out of the party. And if you don't have a lot of character, like, if you just have Yukari and Junpei and one of them is tired, maybe both of them are tired, it means it's kind of time to leave. But one thing that was nice is if you go to the first floor of Tartarus, you can always just easily replenish your HP and SP so you can keep exploring. So it wasn't SP that was keeping you from exploring all of Tartarus. You couldn't get all the way to the top in one sitting. Every X amount of floors, again, there is something like you can't go any further until the next full moon, and then after the next full moon, you fight a boss, you can continue. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. Fuck, I lost my place. Anyways, Tartarus, thank you. Tired. I feel like in 4 and 5, it's SP consumption that kind of limits how far into a dungeon you can explore. In OG Persona 3 and Fez, it was the tired mechanic. That's no longer here. And I think to kind of compensate for that, there is still a way to fully recover your HP and SP, but now it takes a resource. It takes Twilight Fragments, which you can get a few of them in the overworld. Elizabeth will often give you them for progressing through your social links. And then, in some of her quests, you can get them. You can also get them in Tartarus. It's not something I use. And it's also how you open locked treasure chests. So for me, I'm like, I'm not going to use 7 Twilight Fragments to get full health and SP. Because that's a few treasure chests. So I just, never did that. So, I think just from a pure gameplay perspective, not much is lost with this change. It's still, there is something that prevents you from just blowing through this block of Tartarus, because the game probably wants you to pace it out a bit more. But if you really want to, you still can. It's whatever. The thing I liked about the tired mechanic, though, is the subtle character development it gives. It's early on in the game. You're playing as high school students in the dark hour or something that's only available. It's at midnight. So it's really late. It makes sense that they'd get very tired. But as the game progresses, their stamina increases. It takes longer for them to get tired. And from what I remember, kind of in the mid to late game, it just stopped happening. They were used to this, so they didn't get tired. And it's not something the game really points out to you, but just kind of something you notice, Junpei and Yukari don't get tired anymore. That's just cool. That's just neat. It's a nice way of showing growth. Do I miss it as a mechanic? No. But I do miss it as a storytelling device. If I'm being honest. When it comes to the bosses, the full moon, Strega. I mean, the fight with Chidori is less of a fight and just kind of more of a scripted encounter. There's really not much to say. The fight with Jin and Takaya, it's harder than it was in Fez. I still kind of just wiped the floor with them. Same when you fight Jin at the end. The only thing that made Jin hard is the fact that there was a point in the fight where I couldn't kill him anymore. Where the fight's just like, okay, you kind of hit his damage threshold. Now some scripted stuff has to happen because I would have obliterated him in that turn. Takaya's the same thing. Like, he has to get some stronger moves off. He has to use his Theurgy. It's part of the script. If it wasn't for that, they'd be even easier. I appreciate them getting more teeth, but they're still not all that tough, I don't think. Your full moon bosses all have their gimmicks. Priestess is the fact that it's a timed fight. Lovers is charm, and it's just not fun. It's so awful. Hermit is the, like, absorbing electricity and zip-zapping. Fortune is the wheel, which you can't control anymore. And I miss that. I think that kind of sucks. Hangman can just give himself more turns. Shit like that. That's shitty. I hate that you can do that. But, like, they have their gimmicks. Overall, like, I think they're fine. Of the full moon boss, I think my favorite is still Strength and Fortune, but I do find it less fun than it was in Fez. The other massive part of gameplay is the social aspect, where my boy Kamui can make, let's see, I think it'd be 22, because based on all the major arcana except the world, but in addition, instead of that you have Aeon, which usually would replace Judgment in a deck, but here we still have Judgment and Aeon. So there are 22 social links. A few of them go up just as part of the game. That'd be Fool, Judgment, and Death. Which means there's 19 people that Makoto can bond with over the course of the story. Your reward for that is, when you fuse a persona of that arcana. For example, if you're hanging out with Chihiro, who's the Justice social link, when you are making Justice personas, they get an XP boost. And when you get them to level 10, you can summon the ultimate persona of that arcana. For Justice was Melchizedek, I think? Yeah, that was Melchizedek. There's one of those for every arcana. Again, except the world, but instead of the world, you Aeon. Some of these social links, to start them, you have to have you have 3 social stats. There is your intelligence, your charm, and your courage, because you gotta have that dog. There's events you can do in town, like taking jobs, singing karaoke, drinking coffee, that will up your stats. It'll be like, oh, this is something that really took some courage, so you get points, or, man, you're, like, really smart. Your knowledge went up. It's knowledge, not intelligence. And I think they all go up to 6. It's like they go up to 5, then after 5 it's max. Some social links will require a certain stat level to start it, but once it has been started, there will not be another stat check in that social link. Other games will do that. Sometimes it might be like, yeah, you need, like, you can start it, no problem, but to finish it, you need max knowledge. This game is like, once you pass that first check, you're good. And I do prefer that. It's like, essentially, once you start a social link, you can just breeze through it. So long as you have the time to hang out with them. I was not able to finish all of them, unfortunately. There were 3 people I didn't max out. I did not max out Yukari. I did not max out Keisuke. I got Yukari about halfway. I just never really hung out with Keisuke. I got Bebe to 9. And I'm so mad because they're just... Take that pen out. I did not have fun playing the last 2 to 3 months of the game. Because it felt like, especially at night, because night is the best time to up your social stats, because there's only 2 social links at night, and you can get through them really quickly once you start them. Once your social stats are increased, you're like, it feels like the pace of the game, I don't want to say, like, the game gets a lot slower. Because I'm like, well, now what am I going to do at night? I guess I go to Tartarus, but, I mean, if I'm at Tartarus, I feel like I should do stuff here for a while and, like, use this time, but, I don't know. I kind of want to go to the next day, and then you will, and then you'll get the call from Elizabeth saying, hey, so you know you went to Tartarus last night and there was no one to save? And it would have been really efficient if you went on a night when there was people to save. Well, now there's people to save, so you should get back there. Hop, hop. And that's kind of annoying and not that fun. And it really felt like in the last few months, there were just so many days or times where I could not hang out with people. I was like, okay, I might be able to get everyone maxed out. And then it's like, hey, exam week, where you can't really hang out with anybody because they're studying for exams. Oh, well, I mean, that sucks, but at least I'll have the next week. Well, no, that's taking exams, and you just do not get those days. Well, that sucks, but at least there's next week. Wow! Winter break. Cool, I should be able to hang out with people during the break, right? Right? Nope, just not available. Or maybe they'll, like, reach out to you to hang out, but you can't actually up their link. You'll just get more points in the thing. I'm like, well, this sucks. There's the trip to Kyoto, which is, like, cool. That's, 3 days that I really could have used for a social link. It's like, I won't lie, it's like an Operation... No, that wasn't Operation Babe Hunt, that was something else. But, like, the thing in the hot springs, like, this is kind of fun, I guess, but... I don't know, I would have much rather been able to hang out with Bebe on that extra day. The whole, like, hey, now you gotta spend a week working at Wild Duck Burger, and... Yeah, I maybe could have used some of those days to get some points with somebody. That would have been great. But again, that's kind of the point, though. You're probably not going to be able to do everything in your life that you want. So make sure you really maximize the time you have. Maybe you want to be super efficient with it. Maybe you want to really plan to do everything you want. Maybe you're just like, I'm just kind of going to do whatever I feel like with no specific plan. However you want to go, that's completely okay. But I will say from my experience, it felt like game is super fun and super engaging, and it feels like it's moving at like a really good pace, and then slowed to a crawl and just didn't let me do anything for days at a time, like weeks even. And it was so, just so annoying. Do I have anything else I really wanted to say for gameplay? Oh, yeah. I have to talk about that. So, there's a new thing they also added in the 3-load that kind of it's a social thing. Where your male party members, Junpei, Akihiko, Ken, and Best Boy Koromaru. Oh, and Shinji. Shinji gets one too. And even though he's not a party member, Ryoji as well. We'll get these, I think they call them link episodes, which is essentially, this is not a social link, but it's the social link with this character. You hang out with them for a few times, and after you hang out with them, you will be able to summon a stronger, there is a persona that is locked to this, like how an ultimate persona is locked to maximizing a social link. What was Akihiko? Because I didn't do Akihiko's or Junpei's, because, I didn't know there were personas tied to these at the time. Like, I was just hanging out with Shinji, because I was like, I know what's going to happen to him, and I want to kind of see where this story goes. And then after, it's like, cool, you can fuse Hellbiker now. That's cool. Wait. There's personas tied to these? Wait, these are missable? Wait, by doing these, it means I'm not hanging out with someone else? But if I don't do Ken, I can't make Michael. And then if I can't make Michael, I can't make Metatron. If I don't make Koromaru, or if I don't do his, I can't get Byakuya, and then I can't get Kyoryu. And I mean, I don't need it, but it's cool. And I maxed that one out. It was like the third or fourth one I maxed out. And I kind of wish I didn't do Hierophant so early, because I can hang out with a couple whenever I ding dang well please. Wish I would have thought of that. But alas, you know, that's kind of how it be. I don't really like okay, so I guess here's the thing. I like that there's a way to kind of hang out with your male party members, because there just wasn't that in Fez. I don't like that they're missable. Like, think about it, like, some of them make sense. Like, Shinji's being missable makes sense. But, like, Koromaru's, Ken's, I don't know if they really needed to be. I mean, I got them. I'd be way more mad if I didn't. But it reminds me, I talked about this when I was talking about Trails to Azure. How Azure also has this bonding mechanic that it never tells you about and you can't check. And you can only pick one character to bond with at the end of the game. And depending on who you don't pick, you are losing really good content. Like, if you pick Ellie, you get this, like, I've loved you the whole time. I've loved you the whole time. Like, it's fine. And then if you pick Randy, you're like, oh, I'm actually getting, like, really interesting things in Randy's backstory. If you pick Rishia, I feel like it gives you really interesting bits of Rishia's backstory. If you pick Wazy, you get his whole backstory. Like, these are really important parts of the story and these characters that are just not shared in favor of a mechanic that you can't check and it doesn't tell you about. This is kind of similar. It tells you about it, but again, you can't... I don't think the game ever tells you that these are missable, by the way, and not like, hey, it's a social link, essentially. So just like, hang out with them when you can. Or that, yeah, there's a persona tied to the end of this, and maybe it's one you'll really want or need for something later. I don't like that. I really don't like that. So overall, I'm pretty mixed on gameplay. Like, it made the game more fun because I could control my party. And I wanted that, and I needed that. It wasn't hard enough on the hardest difficulty to make me feel like I'm really being challenged. Like, I have to, like, super pay attention to what I'm doing. Because there were definitely times, especially near the end, where I was like, yeah, I'm just listening to Worm while I'm in Tartarus. Because I don't really need to pay attention to what I'm doing in Tartarus. Or, yeah, I'm going to get some episodes of Friendship is Magic done when I'm in Tartarus. Because I don't really need to pay attention to what I'm doing in Tartarus. Which is disappointing. I think the social aspect... Oh, it's like, just from a pure gameplay perspective, I like 5's version of the social aspect more, because your confidants don't just give you fusion bonuses. Each one gives you a specific ability, and that's really nice. The game didn't need to do that because it didn't do it in Fez. It would have been nice, but it's fine. I like how when you're just, like, really doing social links and, like, social stats, the pace of the game flies by. Which, I don't know, it makes for me a very satisfying gameplay loop. And again, it really fits with the themes and the tone of the game. It just makes it all the more unfortunate that it just slowed to a crawl near the end. I'm like, cool, I would like to do things. It reminds me of this line from a Minute Hour video that I don't get to use very often, but I love. It's like, I said everything I could think of, but I had nothing to say. Then I zipped up and walked home. And I recorded this. That's kind of how it feels. It's like I did everything I could, but I had nothing to do. So I just went to the shrine and I walked home. it's not fun near the end. I mean, with how mixed I am, I think I'd probably give it like a 3.5. That might be a little mean. Maybe I should go with like a 4. But I don't know. Like this, that feels about right. I give it about a 3.5 out of 5. So a 4.5 and a 3.5. We're sitting at about an 8 out of 10 so far. Now I get to talk about Persona 3's narrative. Let me look at my notes. Let me look at my notes. C's is my least favorite main cast in Persona. And I mean that in the way where I would say, like, Toy Story 4 is probably my least favorite Toy Story movie. Because I still like it a lot. Persona 4, the fact that you are saving your party members and you are confronting their deepest, darkest, most repressed parts of themselves endears me to them a lot. Like, you see them at their weakest and then you see them at their strongest. And Persona 5 is just a vibe, like, the entire time. And it's great. C's, it's like Tales of the Abyss. This is a very dysfunctional cast who openly hate each other at times. And it's not always the most fun. Now, like Abyss, as the game goes on, you get a lot of context for why they are the way they are. You get to see them grow and become better people and more interesting people. And by the end of the game, I like them. Especially in Reload, as I'm saying, it's like actually using more of them in combat and the voice acting for some of these characters being a lot better. I don't think there's a member of C's that I disliked by the end of Reload. Just not my favorite overall, but I liked them a lot. I think my favorite member of C's is Junpei. It might be, I mean, Koromaru's just a dog, and like I love that he's a dog. But I think for me it's either Aigis, because I think once Aigis' story gets going, I mean, I've never played the answer, and the fact that like, yeah, that's like half the cost of the original game and all this other shit. I don't know if I really want to get that, but we'll see. I think she's quite interesting. Junpei goes from I want to like you, and I do, but you're really annoying, but I get it. And I think his story of just having all of this self-doubt and just like no self-worth or value and so desperately trying to find it, and the one thing he finds it in, he's still inferior to other people. I'm like, this hits kind of close to home, but it's also just really interesting. And then he meets Chidori, and that whole story happens, and it's great. And it's one of my favorite like plot threads in any Persona game. And then it breaks my heart. And it's great. It's wonderful. I like Junpei a lot. As for everyone else, okay, actually, I think I wrote specific things down about that. That's what it was. I talked about like their dysfunctional qualities. Dysfunction junction, it's your malfunction. So Yukari's is her anger for like what happened with her dad and her relationship with her mom and how people have seen her because of her dad. Junpei's self-depreciation, Akihiko's regret in not being able to save his sister and not being able to help Shinji. You have Mitsuru's first with Mitsuru I put guilt. I'm like, no, that's Shinji. Shinji is guilt. Mitsuru, though, it is this burden. It's I don't know if I'd quite say it's noblesse oblige, but almost kind of is. It's like, because my family did this, I'm the one that has to make sure that I take care of it because it is my duty as part of the family. It's my duty as the Kirijo's daughter. You've got Ken's vengeance. Sorry, now I'm just like, I'm vengeance, and it's just Ken. He's just Ken. And then you have Koromaru, who's just a good boy. Like, there is no dysfunction in Koromaru, which I really appreciate. And then with Aigis, and then you get Fuka, with, like, her dysfunction. I guess kind of like with Junpei, except with her, feels like it's less just self-depreciation. It's just a lack of self-esteem. Well, that's very similar. They are slightly different. Junpei actively brings himself down. Fuka just, I guess, maybe more holds herself back. Again, similar, but I feel like it's a little bit different. And then Aigis is her lack of humanity, but then slowly growing into it, being like, this, I don't think I'm supposed to feel like this. This is weird. But yeah, I do feel like they become a lot more interesting as you get their backstories and you see them grow and they become a lot more likable. One of the things I love about Persona 3 is because you don't get to social link with all your party members, the Ascended Personas are part of the story. It is once their arc has reached its conclusion, then they get their Ascended Personas. And then here they get their second Theurgy. I'm like, I really like that. I kind of wish they also did that in like 4 and 5. Let's see. Now let's talk about the villains. One of the things that's really weird to me about Persona 3's story is the lack of a central antagonist. Because in 4, you're trying to find a serial killer. You don't know who it is. So, like, you don't have a person that you're constantly interacting with, like, that's the guy or that's the gal we're trying to get. But you know there is a someone we are trying to get. And then when you meet them, you're like, oh, this got super entertaining. Persona 5 has Shido. You've got your villain of the arc. Here's your villain of the week. Or I got villain of the month with the way Persona games are structured. But here's the main antagonist. Persona 3 isn't like that. I mean, the full moon shadows, I guess, but I don't know, they're not really villains or like antagonists. They're just kind of forces of nature that you have to deal with at the end of the month. There's some build up, like there'll be, like, for example, when you're dealing with lovers in Hierophant, like, oh yeah, things are going on in your love hotels, and I know when you fight the Hermit, there's a few things that are like, oh yeah, like the power in the mall is getting a little finicky, or there's been like blackouts and whatnot, but aside from that, that's it. They're not really like, oh man, this is the bad guy that we're actively dealing with, or we know we need to stop them, but they lack presence. That's the thing. There's not a villain that has this strong presence. Strega doesn't count. It's like, Strega is the closest thing, which, by the way, back when I was playing Fez, and their name was Strega, my brain always heard it as Strega. So the fact that it's now owned by Sega just makes that 10 times funnier in hindsight. Like, that's gold. For me, Strega doesn't count because, well, they're the closest thing to a central antagonist. Like, okay, they're introduced at one point. You interact with them a few points. You do fight them. They try to hinder you. They just don't feel like a threat. Outside of one scene. Because especially if Fez, anytime you fight them, you just kind of blink thrice and the fight is over. And it's also, especially in Fix's 3-load, added more scenes with Strega, especially Takaya. So while I still don't like Takaya, like, I'll talk about him more in detail in a little bit, I feel like I have a better understanding of him. In Fez, it just kind of felt like they showed up a couple times, said some shit, and then they left. And they'd, like, show up, kind of say some shit, maybe. Okay, here's the thing. This is why they don't feel like the central antagonist. Because it felt like I was dealing with Team Rocket. They show up, are kind of annoying, and I say this as someone who loves Team Rocket, by the way, but they show up, are kind of annoying, talk some shit, get in your way, don't really stop you, and then leave. Like, that's not... Like, man, this is a central threat, a central antagonist that I really care about, and, like, I have to do something about. Like, no, it's just kind of an annoyance that we deal with on occasion. And then partway through the game, it's just, like, it takes a little bit for them to show up, then they show up for a bit, and then they leave, and you don't see them for a few months, and they show back up right at the end. They lack that gravitas that a central antagonist really has. Like, this is the serial killer invading our home, or that dude is running for prime minister and has his fingers in everything and is the man that ruined Joker's life. This is a dude who doesn't wear a shirt but claims that he is, and it's just invisible to stupid people. Which, to be fair, I love that scene. Like, why don't you wear a shirt? My coat is invisible to fools. Like, that's actually pretty funny. I will give you that, Revolver Jesus. I saw a meme about Takaya the other day, and it was like, how does this dude get anything done? Like, seeing this really thin, pale man walking around just looking like Jesus without a shirt and a revolver. It's like, dude wouldn't be able to get service in Florida. How does he get anything done in Japan? Got a really good laugh out of that. Our next antagonist candidate is Ikutsuki. I don't want to have to talk about Ikutsuki, but I will. He wants so badly to be the main antagonist of this game. He tries. God bless him. He tries. My problem with Ikutsuki, first off, is it really feels like it comes the hell out of nowhere. Like, I've played the story of Persona 3. Like, this is one of those things where I remember playing Fez and was like, okay, this feels like it came out of nowhere, and I'm not sure if it's because I just didn't notice the foreshadowing, or if I forgot the foreshadowing because it's been 6 months since I played this game. Should this mean anything to me? And then replaying it, I'm like, no, it still feels like it comes out of nowhere. Now, his whole thing is actually kind of interesting. I doctored the footage of Yukari's dad talking about the full moon shadows so that you guys would want to fight them and destroy them. Because if you destroy them all, then death will happen, and, the promised king, and I'm a cultist, and blah, 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 and we want to destroy the world. Like, oh, okay. You want to destroy the world so you can kind of rule whatever's left. They're like, okay, fine, sure. Totally buy it. You know what I don't buy? You know what I really don't buy? Oh, I have to talk about November 4th. November 4th is so hilariously terrible to me. So first off, everyone meets Ikutsuki at the gates of Tartarus, because, like, okay, we thought we killed the last full moon shadow, being the Hanged Man, so we thought the Dark Hour was going to be gone, but the Dark Hour's still here, we gotta figure this out. So they go to Tartarus, and Ikutsuki is there, he just starts monologue, he's like, by the way, guys, I'm nuts! Like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. I don't know where this is coming from, but you know what? Sure. You are our main antagonist of the game. We have been helping you the entire time. You've been right under our nose. We've been under your thumb. This could be some interesting shit. Now let's kick your ass. We don't get to do that because you don't fight him. It's not that he's actually been a Persona user the entire time and is really tough, and then he shows you why he needs to be feared and revered. No, he has Aigis do it. And this fight, where Aigis solos all of C's, by the way. Including Akihiko, who can hit her weakness. Including Makoto, who probably has personas that can hit her weakness. She solos everybody off screen. It's not even like you do a fight against a really strong Aegis or something, and you're like, oh, she's like in Orgia mode the entire time, and she is just a monster right now. Like, I could maybe, itchy. I could maybe buy that. But no, it's just, hey, off screen, she kicks your asses. Then they take all but one member of C's and crucify them? Because, sure, why not? The one member they don't take is Koromaru. It's because they don't need a dog as a sacrifice to bring in Nyx or whatever the fuck. Okay. You know that's a persona user, right? Rhetorical question. You both know this, Ikutsuki and Aegis. Why did you just leave the dog? Which feels way more egregious in 3-load. When Koromaru's like the best party member. Like, you left the best party member and like had no contingency for this. And are surprised when he showed up and foiled your plans. This was really stupid. Then there's actually this really cool kind of like little shootout between Ikutsuki and Mitsuru's dad, where Mitsuru's dad dies. Like, that is like the one scene I'm like, I actually really like this. Then Ikutsuki just dies. So to recap, for most of the game, he's this goofy, slightly bumbling, pun-spouting dude who's your benefactor. For 90% of his screen time, if not more. Let's say 95% of his screen time. Then in the last 5%, he goes, by the way, I've been the main antagonist of the game so far. I am absolutely crazy. I am a cultist that is all about death, and I will be the king of the new world. And you think, okay, this is going to be something. And you think it's going to be something. And then it's just not, because he dies in like 2 minutes later. It's so underwhelming. And it goes so far nowhere that I don't know why it's here. And I just think it's stupid. I really, really do. I wish I gave an iota of a fuck about Ikutsuki. But I don't. I really don't. And that's why I'm like, well, you can't be the central antagonist of the game. So that just leaves Ryoji, who is really the closest to that. I just think for me, Ryoji shows up too late. It's kind of like in 4 and 5, how like in 4, it's turns out Izanami was the main antagonist behind everything. Like, sure, I get it. Adachi is the main antagonist of the game. Izanami, it's kind of, the illusion I always use is, who is the main antagonist of A New Hope? Because I feel like there's 3 different answers to that. Answer number 1 is it's the Emperor. This is the dude who, like, you never see him, you never meet him. But you know everything that's going on is his bidding in some way. Either he has directly ordered it or he has indirectly ordered it. He is the main antagonist that will have to be dealt with, even if he doesn't have a direct appearance. Answer number 2 is Vader. This is the guy that you are actively fighting, that is actively causing trouble, kills a major character, and is the one person that is able to escape the destruction of the Death Star. I mean, I don't know if there's another stormtrooper on like a TIE fighter or something, but I think it's just Vader by the end. So, you know, this is the guy that's been the thorn in your side throughout the movie, got a major kill, and is still on your tail. The other option is Tarkin, who is the one that gives the order to blow up Alderaan, so he's also got a lot of blood on his hands. But he's the guy that Vader is directly answering to. Again, we know that both of them work for the Emperor. But the guy who is actively calling the shots throughout the movie is Tarkin. And I think that's kind of interesting. Like, there's three main antagonists, depending on how you see it. And I feel like, for me, Nyx is kind of like the Emperor. And it's like, yes, this is the main antagonist, but you don't really see them. With, I guess, Ryoji as her avatar being kind of like Vader, except Vader doesn't show up until, I don't know, 85% of the way done. That being said, I like Ryoji a lot. Ryoji's story is, I am the human side of death. Like the literal embodiment of death, the Death Arcana, that was sealed inside Kamui 10 years ago. Shout out Ikus. And being a part of him for so long, let me understand what humanity is and why human life is valuable. I understand also my role in the fall, and I can't stop it. Nyx cannot be stopped, and I wish it were not so. I would gladly give my life for my friends and for this world. But I can't, because we are so far beyond that at this point. Killing me stops nothing. It may bring you peace, and if it does, have at you. Like, please do it. I just want your last few months to be peaceful, to be happy, however you want to spend them. And I think that's really interesting. And contrast that with Takaya. So Takaya, to me, leaves a terrible first impression. And not just the fact that he's an assassin, he's a bad guy. Like, I mean, sure, but I mean, look at Jafar's first scene. I mean, he's a bad guy too, but I love the dude. Look at any time Cruella de Vil is on screen. It's like, I don't mind a good villain. What I hated about Takaya is, like, when he's first confronting the main characters, his viewpoint is, the Dark Hour is ours. Me, you, us Persona users. Whatever force of fate, whether it's God, whether it's some other universal entity, maybe it's pure random bullshit, but something gave these powers to us, this unique time to us. And you want to get rid of it? You want to squander this gift, this uniqueness, this time. I'm disgusted by that. You're not worthy of this power. And then when you get to the end of the game and you realize that the Strega personas are not natural. This is the result of human experimentation and them having their lives and their future stolen from them. You understand Takaya a lot more. Like, where it's not just like, come on, we were all chosen. Why are you guys throwing this away? It's no, no, no. You are the ones chosen. I was the one forced. And you want to throw it away? To him, especially coming from Mitsuru, is like a slap and a spit in his face. That's really interesting. But the way he presents it the first time is like, you guys are all hypocrites. I mean, you say you want to help people. You want to use this power to fight shadows that cause problems and take lives, but people die every day and you don't stop that. Ironic, no. Or it's like, that's how it comes across. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? It's the way he presents it is so just like weird and ludicrous that it doesn't work. But I feel like when you see him more and you talk to him more, I'm like, okay, massive asshole. Don't like the dude. Then he kills Shinji. It is on sight every time. You're like, now, whatever you might have said that I might have thought was interesting does not matter. It's on sight. But genuinely, I think there's an interesting character in there. Jin just doesn't really do much for me. It's just like, Takaya's been my best friend forever. Takaya gave me my... Oh, that's the other thing about Takaya is... Takaya also emphasizes the theme of the game, but in a more nihilistic fashion. He is all about carpe diem, seize the moment, live in the moment. But not because life is valuable and you should appreciate it. Not because your time is limited and you should maximize it. It's because nothing matters. And if nothing matters and your future is not, like, set, make everything else matter. And it's like he's on the right track. He just doesn't quite get it. But given the life Takaya has, I think that makes sense. I feel like Takaya as a character is like, the more I think about it, I'm like, the more I like the character or the idea of the character, I just also hate him. Which is something I can't appreciate. It's kind of like Scar. Like, I love Scar. Scar's a great antagonist. Massive piece of shit who needed to get eaten by hyenas. It happens. And then you have Chidori, who I said, hey there, blah, blah. I said that Junpei is my favorite member of Siege. Chidori might be my favorite character in the game as a whole, because of just how interesting her story is to me. Chidori is someone who is dying and does not fear death, because to her, it's an inevitability. It's going to happen. I don't have a natural persona. I know I have a limited amount of time. The thing I fear is not death. What I fear is attachment. I fear that there will be someone or something that I don't want to say goodbye to. And I am living my life cold and detached so I don't feel that. And then she meets Junpei. And she can't help but get attached. And she hates him for it. And all of a sudden, she gets real scared of having to say goodbye. And the scene where she does... It's like, no, I'm sorry, Bub. I just scared my cat. It's like, again, reasons to hate Takaya. This is your fault, you piece of shit. Like, I almost want to sympathize with you, and then I remember any scene with you, and I can't. Takaya, okay, it's like, Takaya I don't think is really, like, the central antagonist of the game, but maybe I don't give him enough credit. Again, the more I talk about it, the more like, no, I kind of do appreciate Takaya. Let's see, what else did I really want to say? So in addition to the main story and your main cast and their dysfunctions, but they do get over their dysfunctions, Yukari is able to let go of her anger once she really understands who her father was, what he wanted for her, and looks past Kirijo-senpai and gets to really see her as Mitsuru. And they can form a genuine bond and become friends. Junpei, after having someone love him for who he is, not who he wanted to be, not who he pretended to be, but for Junpei fucking Iori, is able to love himself. You get Akihiko, who is able to move past his own weakness and become a stronger person. You have Mitsuru, who is able to let go of her burden and not be forced into the group, but to do it because she wants to help her friends succeed. You have Ken, who is able to let go of his vengeance, which, granted, thanks to Kaya, was able to help with that in his own way. But if there's one thing I really remember in Fez, is the way it's written is more of Ken isn't upset that Shinji is gone. He's upset that he didn't get to do it himself. And I feel like in 3 Load, it becomes very clear that no, just seeing someone die again and it being his fault has really gotten to him. But he's able to now really appreciate the value of life and the value of his own life in particular. And Koromaru was just a good boy, and Aiga says, oh, I guess I'm kind of human now. And I don't want to downplay that. Like, her progression throughout the game, I think, is very good. But she is now a person. And then you get the social link stories. So I'm going to try to breeze through these really quick. The Fool is just the C's link as a collective, as a group. It's just we're getting closer. We're kind of getting over our shit. You have Kenji, the magician, which he misinterprets the signals from someone he really likes, and when it turns out she did not see him that way, he gets really sad. Also, it's a teacher, and because of him misinterpreting the signals, it caused a controversy, and she has to leave. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I don't hate it, but I'm like, it's okay. You get Fuka's the High Priestess, who wants to be able to repay her debt to C's and to Kamui specifically. And it's giving her confidence in cooking and the fact that she really likes technology. And she's like, I don't think I should. It's not really a feminine thing. Cooking is a very feminine thing, so maybe that's what I should do. And being able to feel comfortable in her own skin. I liked it quite a bit. Mitsuru is the Empress, who is going from being a rich girl to understanding how the common person lives, like enjoying a burger or enjoying the movies, and also being able to let go of her burdens again. Like the burden of, as the heir of the Kirito group, I have to make sure the company is good, and to do that, I have to marry this guy, and this guy's kind of a D-bag, but I have to do it, and then getting to a point where she says, no, I'm not going to do this. You're a terrible person. You have Hidetoshi, the Emperor, who is the member of the disciplinary committee in the student council and goes way too hard into it. And by the end, just kind of realized this wasn't worth it. I think there's better ways that I can help people and better ways that I can instill discipline and like get to a better future and like create better, I don't know, like instill better values in people. You know, I want to become a teacher, and I like Hidetoshi quite a bit, especially by the end. We've got the old couple who I cannot remember their names. I feel really bad about it. They're the Hierophant, and they were in the bookstore, and their son died forever ago because it's Persona 3. Of course, someone's dead when you do a social link. And they just want the persimmon tree that their son planted on campus because he was a teacher. They want it to stay, but it's going to be cut down, but it's being cut down so they can make another building there. And they're like, that's another way for our son's legacy to exist. And it's just really sweet and sad. And then you have Yukari, who I didn't finish. I can't really say much. I got about halfway through it, and it wasn't a fun half. Like, that's right. Like, I like Yukari, but I also don't like Yukari. We're just going to skip that. You get my boy Kaz, who is, oh yeah, Yukari's the lover. Kaz is the chariot, who is working very hard, and he's pushing himself too hard as a member of the track team, and he's also doing this to inspire his nephew. But as he kind of also admits, as much as I say I'm doing it for my nephew, and I'm also doing it for myself and my own stubborn pride. Thank you for letting me know that my happiness and my well-being is more important than my pride. You have Chihiro, who is Justice, which part of that is like she's shy and is not comfortable around men, and then she gets over her shyness and becomes a lot more comfortable with Makoto. And also she was falsely accused of stealing when she didn't. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't super get into Chihiro's. I maxed it out, but I was like, I thought it was kind of okay. Then you get Maya, the Hermit, which is a girl you meet online in a video game that ends up being your teacher. And the scene on the final day when she finds out who Tatsuya is one of the funniest parts in any Persona game. It is easily one of my favorite social links because of just how wild and goofy it is. Oh, it's amazing. But it's also a story about someone who has hit this rut in their life. And then from finding the right person and being able to vent their frustrations, are also able to realize the things that really matter, and are able to find, like, they're able to get their spark back. And as much as I like it for being funny and silly, I also like what actually happens in the social link and how it gets resolved. After Maya is Keisuke, which is the Wheel of Fortune, which I just didn't do. I have nothing to say about Keisuke. I'm sorry, bro. After that, you get Yuko, which is Strength, who is someone who is able to find strength in herself and find, like, this is the direction I want to live in my life. Because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I wasn't thinking about the future, and now I've decided that I want to be a coach. I want to be someone who can instill, I don't know, like, inspire others and make them better than they were before, like, and how I'm now better than I am before. And I think it's quite good. Maiko, the Hanged Man. This is one of my favorites. It's a little girl whose parents are getting divorced, and you're just helping her through it, and it's really sad. Pharaoh's is Death. This is one of the ones that I said is it's mandatory. It just kind of happens naturally. This is, for all intents and purposes, your social link with Nyx. And like, yeah, that's actually kind of interesting. And it is Kamui's humanity and Pharaoh/Ryoji/Nyx interacting with that is able to give them a chance at the end. Then you have Bebe, the French weeb transfer student who I wasn't able to finish, but I really liked his story, and it's just, this dude just wants to live his best life, and his aunt wanted him to live in Japan and support him, and his uncle didn't, but he went with his aunt. Or it's like his aunt was able to take care of him, but his aunt died, and his uncle wants him back. He's like, I have to go back, but I'm gonna show my uncle how great this place was, and what it did for me, and what you have done for me. And I know I'm gonna be able to come back one day. There's Tanaka the Devil, who's just a massive piece of shit. There's this very greedy, manipulative, awful human being that maybe kind of sort of gets better by the end of it by taking on an almost protege. I just think he's super entertaining. I just really enjoy Tanaka. Mutatsu, the Tower, another one of my favorites. It's this old alcoholic monk who lost his, they didn't die, but like he lost his relationship with his wife, with his son, and now, to quote Hook, he's old, alone, and done for. No, I don't know if that line is in Hook. That was in Peter Pan, a live action one. I think it came out in like 04? 05? It might be in Hook too. Anyways. And talking to Makoto, who reminds him of his son, it's reminding him of what he lost, and it makes him realize, I need to clean myself up. I know what's really important in my life, and I'm going to go after it. And if I have to get on my knees and beg, if I have to change everything and throw my life away to get back what I lost, I will do it. You've got Hayase, which is the star, which is this track athlete who is at the top of his game, and his life just crumbles around him so he can no longer pursue his dream. And it doesn't even end. I mean, by the time you get like the epilogue of it, it's like he's able to kind of get something out of it, but it's like, no, life happened to him, and he wasn't able to do the things that he really wanted. There's maybe a chance for it, kind of ish down the road, but he had to grow up. You have Nozomi, the moon, which I know is one a lot of people don't like, and I get it. You're dealing with this dude. I might have to go on a bit of a rant with Nozomi, because I like him a lot more than other people do. You're dealing with this fat dude that just really likes food, but he's kind of gross about it. Like, he'll be eating, and then he's like, oh man, dude, I got bad diarrhea. I gotta go shit my brains out. Does it, and then, all right, go. And I find it entertaining. I find it kind of funny, but I get why people think he's really gross. Then you find out that he's part of a cult and is actively scamming people out of their money so he can go to paradise one day. Also, he had a twin brother who died, and he talks about essentially like how much happier he is that his brother was gone because he won't be compared to him anymore. You're like, wow, what an awful person. Here's the thing, though. Nozomi's brother died of food poisoning. When the two of them went out, I think it was like they were getting pork buns. And the one that his brother ate had the food poison. The one Nozomi ate was fine. And everyone that knows them either actually says this and thinks this, or it's just the way Nozomi feels. But he believes that everyone else wishes he was the one that died and not his brother. And given the fact that Nozomi loves food, is the gourmet king, I don't know if he specifically said that it was my idea that we go eat those, but for me, I can kind of infer that. So not only do people wish it was him that died instead, to him it's his fault. And he was always compared to his brother, but it seemed like even though I was compared to him and I was inferior, he was still my brother and I loved him. Now that he's gone, he is put up on a pedestal that I can never reach. And I am constantly reminded by everyone that I will never reach his level, and it should have been me instead. And the thing he is striving for is to reach paradise. Somewhere where he won't be compared to his brother anymore. And the reason he's so close to Kamui is he's like, this is someone, he even says, he's like, you remind me of my brother. And I'm not jealous of you. Like, it's kind of, like, he's gotten to a point where he's so sick of his brother and the memory of his brother that he's demonized him. But meeting Makoto reminds him of what he had with his brother and what he lost. And it's honestly really sad. Like, it's not as upfront sad as I think like Utatsu's or Maiko's or Hayase's or Akanari's. We're gonna get to him in the next one. But I do think it's on the level of a lot of the other social links. Like, it's far from my least favorite. I feel like I actually like Nozomi's quite a bit. I feel like I liked it more than Kenji's. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. But I had to really go into him for a second. And then you get Akanari. You get the son in a story of a dying man. Of a 19-year-old who has not even really begun to live yet. Who is trying his best to stay kind of optimistic about this. But he can't. And he decides he wants to leave something of his behind before he goes. So he starts writing, and he starts working on this children's story. And he's so desperate to finish it. And the last time you see him, It's kind of starting to come down a little bit. Is he hands you his completed work, and then he disappears. On the final day, when you get to hang out and like see all your social links and all your rank 10s, you don't see Akinari. Instead, you talk to his mom. And like I said earlier in the voice acting section, it is devastating. Akinari is essentially the reason I finished Fez. Because it was a game where I was very slow and I didn't really want to play it. I didn't really get into it. But I remembered that social link. I remembered the story of the dying young man I could only talk to on Sundays, writing the story about that fucking pink alligator. And I was like, I am finishing this social link. This one is important. This one is super interesting. And it broke my heart then, and it broke my heart now. Akinari is easily my favorite social link in this game. And the social links in this game are fantastic. I haven't gone through all of them because like there's Judgment, which is just plot stuff, and there's Aegis, where Aegis really just gets to learn about the human experience, like what it means to have a family, what it means to have loss, and this story about like you help this woman find her cat, and then the cat disappears again because the cat is going somewhere to die, and Aegis is like, oh my god, like I'm actually understanding now the concept of death, and that when you die, people, everyone else that you loved is still there. Fuck. Everyone that you loved is still there, and they have to deal with that, which is exactly what happens to her when you get to the end of the game. And that's what she's talking about. Like, I'm realizing as a robot, I will outlive all my friends. I will outlive you. And now that I realize that, and now that I care, I realize how much this is going to hurt me. And it's really good. And with all these really good social links in the game, Akinari's is the best one. He's on a very short list of just being the best one of the whole series. Along with, like, I mean, 5, they're confidants. They're not social links. But you know what I mean. Sojiro's, Futaba's. I could never get that far into Nanako's in 4. Because I was really bad about getting my stats up. But from what I understand, Nanako's is the best one in 4. But Akinari's is easily one of the best in the series, and yeah, clearly I think very highly of Aegis's too. Man, they kill it in the social links. And then you get to the end of the game, where you are able to defeat Nyx. You are able to stop the fall. But it comes at a heavy price. And Makoto Yuki, MC, Kamui Sakuya, whatever you called him, has to give himself up. It doesn't happen immediately. It's a few months later. Just talking to all the social links you maxed out. You don't directly talk to all of them. I mentioned Akinari. Hayase is in another town, but he writes you a letter. You get a message from Mutatsu, but I like to refer to them as rank 11s, because rank 10 is when you max out the story, and then this final day, these epilogue, it's kind of what I call them. Going through all these rank 11s, and you see just like the impact that you had. Like, it means something. And so many of them, the ones that are directly talking to you, will say, like, hey man, like, are you okay? You don't look so good. Maybe you should get some rest. Or, like, hey, I'll see you next year. Like, I'll see you in, like, a few months when the next semester starts or whatnot. And they talk about your future plans together. And then the next day, he gets really tired. He decides to close his eyes. Right there with Itis. As she's talking about how she knows what she wants to do. She wants to be by his side forever. He gets really, really tired. I think I'll close my eyes just for a bit. Persona 3 is a game about loss. It's not so much quite about death, but it is about loss. Because every social link is about that. No one dies in Kenji's social link, but he does lose. He loses a relationship he thought he had, a love he thought he had. Like Kaz, he was able... Actually, I take that back, because not everyone is loss, because some, like Yuko's, are more about gain. It's either you comfort someone in their time of need, or you just give them the push they need to be a better person, or a healthier person, or a more complete person. It's that yin and yang, push and pull, you know, like waterbending. Because that's a lot of what life is. It's helping your friends when they're at their lowest. And it's also doing what you can to help them be the best people that they can be. And Persona 3 has its problems with its story. I don't like Ikutsuki. He does nothing for me. And it just bothers me how there's this whole long section, like this long night and cutscenes where it's like, hey, we're really building this guy up. He's gonna be a thing. He's gonna be a problem. And then, never mind. It's like, why did this happen? I don't care about this. And I still have to give the game a perfect score for its story. Because anything else just feels disrespectful. Because the story can't, like, look at this, like, I can't talk about it. Like, I'm trying and I'm, like, fucking crying. I can't do that and not give it a perfect score. Like, if it wasn't for Ikutsuki's bullshit, it would get higher than a 5 out of 5. It'd get, like, a 5.5. I'd probably give it a full 6. But alas, I can't go higher than that because Ikutsuki didn't happen. So it gets a 5. So if my math is correct, that's a 4.5 and a 3.5, and a half make a 1, and a 4, 3, and a 1 make an 8. Plus 5, that's a 13. So I would give 3 load for me a 13 out of 15. And I think the best way to end this video is a bookend. I started with the opening lines of Full Moon, Full Life, and I feel like I should end it with the ending lines of Full Moon, Full Life. And that they really do encapsulate the game's underlying message. that no matter how far or how you go, no matter how long it may last or how short it may last, enjoy your life and burn your dreads.